Welcome to $100 Million Blueprint. We're your hosts, Jonathan Ferrari and Neil Cuggy, the founders of Goodfood. Whether you're scaling your own business, leading a growing team, or just curious about what it takes to build something big, this podcast's for you.
In each episode, we sit down with the brightest minds in business to discuss the real secrets to scaling. No fluff, no corporate jargon, just actionable advice that works. We share our highs, lows, lessons, and tough truths.
Today, we're diving deep with an incredible guest who's got a track record of growing a business from the ground up. So grab a coffee, sit back, and get ready to take some notes. This is $100 Million Blueprint.
Welcome to part 2 of our conversation with Genevieve Brousseau Provencher, co-founder and CEO of Doze Juice. Haven't heard part 1 yet? Well, make sure to give it a listen before tuning into this episode. If you enjoyed listening to the first part of this conversation, we have even more valuable insights coming your way. In part 2, we dive deeper into Genevieve's story of scaling operations, her entrepreneurship journey with her partner, and what it takes to get to $100 million. Please follow the $100 Million Blueprint podcast so that you never miss an episode. Let's dive in.
That was so interesting. And this is clearly, so the name of the show is $100 Million Blueprint. And so it sounds like we got a little bit of insight into your $100 million blueprint. And retail seems to be one of the big levers. Goodfood purchased Genuine Tea, which is a leader in the craft tea space in Canada. And what we found really interesting about Genuine Tea is, so they actually started selling their product in cafes. So the Genuine Tea was the first Canadian brand to bring in authentic Japanese matcha into third wave coffee shops. So it was the tea for third wave cafes. And then they started expanding and were doing really great in cafes, but then hit a very similar situation where it's hard to get that inflection point through a single channel. And then they said, well, why don't we go into e-com? And so, e-com today is about a third of the Genuine Tea business. And then they said, well, we're in cafes, we're in e-com, why don't we go into grocery as well? And so they're in Whole Foods and some of the specialty grocers, and that was another inflection point. And then going into hospitality, restaurants. And so I think access is one of the key things for the growth of a brand, which I find really interesting. What else can you paint in your $100 million blueprint for us that would be interesting for the audience?
I think I would just add to what you said. I think you have to, everything like e-commerce, like D2C, for example, and then whatever cafe, whatever channels you decide to start or to test, I think it's important that you actually give it time and focus on perfecting that channel and grow it. And then as far as you can, and then you add another channel that you focused it. Like sometimes I feel that if you start to do multiple, whether it be at the same time, D2C cafes, all those things, marketplace, but then you haven't found the recipe, the winning recipe of each, or the same can happen is if you enter too many retail stores. So you see a lot of growth, and you see it sometimes with different companies or products, and you see it in the data. That's where for us, it's really important to look at how much, we talk about velocity. So how much dollar per point of distribution, how much dollar per SKU per week per store do you actually sell? And that's a very, very important metric, because if you just look at total, if a company or product, whatever, just added 1,000 stores, and that's something, that can happen probably more in the US because they have retailers, 1,000 stores, but you've added a lot of doors. It can seem from the outside, oh shit, that's a beautiful growth, but you can't pull that off so many times. And then if your product is not performing well, you'll be out of those doors as fast as you entered them. So the true health of a company is their ability to be successful in the channel they first focus on, and then really on those metrics. So if you decide to enter, let's say, retail first, before you add too many different retailers, make sure that the retailer you've entered, that you have the best velocities of your competition in that store. And then once you've mastered that, then you go on to the second one and you do the same thing. Because if it's the same, it's what we were talking before, focus is so important. And it's the same thing in go-to-market strategy. It's easy to be distracted, to want to be everywhere. But if you don't have the manpower, the energy to be able to find the recipe for each of those channels, the successful recipe of each of those channels, and be the number one in each of those channels, because if your goal is to be the number one tea, the number one, shot company, number one, whatever it is, you need to be number one in every channel you enter. So if you do everything at the same time, you won't be. It will look probably great for a while as like top line growth if we're talking, but in the end, it will catch up to you. So I think, again, like the path to 100 million is be relentless with your focus, be extremely close to very specific KPIs that work for you, that really show that you have created a product that the customer wants repeatedly. That the customer wants repeatedly. That's super important. And then until you really proven that, you shouldn't look at the shiny object or anything else. It's like, this is your jigsaw puzzle. You have to figure that out. Once you figure that out, then you keep those metrics very close, and then you move on to your next focus. But it's really one step at a time, KPIs very close to you, and you really understand your gross margin. Understand what goes in it. Whether you have a bad gross margin to start or not, if you understand the main levers of it, it's important too, because then you'll know what to focus on. Year first, let's say. You're first going to focus on automation. Year two, going to focus on procurement. Like, let's say, and then you have a plan, but you have to understand those things. Otherwise, it will slow you down to your path to 100 million, I believe, because you will start to make bad deals. You will maybe chase bad growth, or you won't build a winning recipe and knowledge that is super important to fend off competition. And then you'll be, you'll never be the number one. You might die before that. So for me, that's the path to 100 million. And after that, it's just your ability to sustain pain as an entrepreneur.
Love that. Maybe to switch gears a little bit, something you said before around being pregnant in year 6. So assuming you have at least one little kid at the house and 2, awesome. So can you talk just a little bit to the audience about managing motherhood, running the business with your partner, 2 kids at home? How do you dedicate time, set boundaries, and kind of set your life up so that pain from the entrepreneur life doesn't necessarily affect the kids and the personal life on the other side? Because I know it's something that everyone thinks about. I have 2 young kids. John has 2 young kids. We're all kind of going through the similar steps, but as a father, we don't have to carry the kid as we're running the business, like a lot of mothers have done.
I think, being a parent and entrepreneur, it's hard, and I think it's not putting too much pressure. I think people have this sense, and sometimes people ask me like, how do you manage both? I'm like, sometimes I just want to answer I don't really, in the sense of it's not like, you cannot aim to have this perfect constant balance of you're perfectly managing the company at a very constant 9 to 5 time frame, and you have always the constant presence with your kids, always you strive for that. But I think we put too much, and then you look good doing it. You know what I mean? You feel like you have all of this in control, but I don't think I don't think that's attainable, especially, maybe when, I don't know, mine are around 2 under 5. So maybe people have teenagers at some point, but I think it's other problems. But I think it's more about the concept of looking at in a year. Sometimes you will have times that maybe your work is going to take a little bit more time away from, I'm not saying being absent, but you're going to travel a little bit more. It's going to be more intense at work. So you're going to have less time at home. But then you're going to swing the pendulum back to times with quiet, and you're going to focus a bit more on your family. If you can go a bit earlier, or be able to drop off your kids, or just take those vacations that are focused on your kids. And the same thing with your friends. Maybe it will be a yearly trip that you take with your friends, and you focus really on your friends for those week or 2 weeks, like really quality time you focus. So if you look at your year might look more balanced. But I think sometimes we put pressure on ourselves to look at the day or the week to be balanced. And I don't think I haven't achieved that. So maybe somebody has. But I think that's putting too much pressure on ourselves. And the funny thing is, like, you guys have probably realized that, like, when you build a business, you realize that you even have to look at progress in a year, in 5 years, and even 10-year increments. Like, so we do it, we're a business more, but we don't put the same with our own personal life, where it's the same thing. Like, it's impossible to be perfectly balanced always on a daily basis, but it could be possible and we should, for family and friends, and to be, a good human being, a happy human being. Look at it in a year. And if you're able to balance quality time with all the elements of your life and important to you in a year, I think that is success. That is success to me. And that's what people should strive for versus, the perfect day. So that's one thing. And the other thing about giving birth and being like having to carry a child while raising a company. I mean, it was extremely hard, obviously. But I think, and it was also very hard on Raf, because I'm extremely lucky to have a very hands-on partner in business and in my personal life. Like, it is 50-50, like everything. Like, I breastfed for 6 months, and then I stopped, and I said, at night, you give the bottle. Like, I'm not waking up anymore for the next 6 months if it lasts. It is your turn. You're breastfeeding with the bottle. So, and he did it. So so I'm extremely lucky, but I didn't have I envy sometimes, like, people who have been able to take a 12-month parental leave or any type of parental leave. Because even if you are absent from work, as you know, like, even you're never offline, like, mentally, like, it's an obsession. Whatever we do, we're obsessed by it. But it was difficult at the beginning to, like, you have this obsession, but you also really want to spend time with your little one, just sleep. So, like, for me, like, I don't know I don't have tips of, like, how to do it. Cause I think if you have a business and you have a child, it will be difficult to take time off. I think you have to try to be surrounded. Maybe I would have, done it differently, and maybe invest in full-time nanny or something like that to make it easier. But I just think all in all, it will always be hard. And it's normal if you have, like I'm saying to the woman, it's normal if you're going to have maybe a nervous breakdown. Like, I did 6 months of therapy after having my second. I wasn't sleeping. It's normal if you don't feel like your brain is fully back, because going back to work, like a month, 2 months after you're giving birth, it's you still are sleepless, brain is like in hormones and whatever. That's normal. And I think it's about not putting too much pressure on yourself and giving yourself time. And my advice to managers or people that work with, someone who decided to go back to work early, or is another entrepreneur in your team that, just had a child, even if they back after a year of mat leave, like, just understand that, it's like, and you have kids, but a first child is difficult. Going back to the routine could be difficult. Just be more understanding and just giving them time to get back to the rhythm, and just even, this make space for the new obsession. The business is an obsession, but you have to make space for the new little obsession that you have. And then the woman, and even any parent, has to, have the time to adjust the two, and then get back to the rhythm of, whatever they're doing. So I think for managers, it's just, giving new parents more space for that, more understandings and open conversations, and saying, it's normal if, tired, or you miss your child, whatever it is, because I think that's important. Sometimes I think we at work, we forget that the people we work with and that work for us are also building something outside of work, which could be, whatever, but it's a family, which is super important. And it is hard as well. It's another project, right? We've built our first baby. Your guys' first baby was Goodfood. My first baby was Doze, and that's hard when it was hard. But another baby is another big project, and it's super important. It's way more important. But the marriage of the two is hard. So I think we just have to talk about it a little bit more at work, and make it more, normal that, it's hard and it's okay. Do you need support and understanding? Don't need to hide your family. Don't need to hide the fact that you're tired. It's people have kids. We should acknowledge it and make space for it. And I think that will makes you a better leader to acknowledge that, and makes them a better employee, because they don't feel the pressure of being judged. Be like, oh, I have to pick up my kid at daycare because they're sick again, and it's my turn. Then you feel bad, and then they're going to log on like when they're super tired to try to make up because they feel they need to make up. It's like, and then it's just a vicious cycle. Like, just, it's okay, we got you. And that's how a team should be. Like, sometimes I'll take a little bit more work because something is happening, and then it will be vice versa. So just this reminder of supporting new parents, new mother, and making space for it, and then talking about it.
For sure. And just showing some grace for yourself and for others, right? Like just taking it slowly and not putting so much pressure on getting it right the first time. Like, I think as entrepreneurs, when we're, you mentioned a couple examples already of we're going to test things and figure it out. And we have a little bit more forgiveness on ourselves when we're doing an MVP for a product rather than an MVP for a kid, which is even more important and a lot more difficult. So remembering to have that grace. And I find personally, the other thing that happened when we had our first kid was it kind of forced us to think about how can we give more to our managers, give more to our team, level up the people around us in terms of what they're able to contribute, and hand off some of the tasks that maybe you were holding on to a little too long as well. So it acted like a mini catalyst for some of those things. And thankfully on our side, the teams all stepped up, and we never went back after. It was like, okay, this is the new normal, and we're going to operate like this. And it gives you time to focus on better things in the company, and it gives them an opportunity to grow, and then it gives a little bit more time for that harmony between the family and the business that you're mentioning too. So.
And you know what? Like 10 years ago, the average age at Goodfood was like 25, and nobody had kids, right? And it was funny that there's two things that I noticed in the transition of like just, everyone kind of growing up, I guess. And we talk a lot about how, some of the team members that have been with us for 5, 6, 7, 8 years in the life of a 10-year company that we started when we were in our 20s, we basically grew up together, right? And so I noticed two things. One was I feel like people became better managers when they became parents, right? So there's something there for sure. And then the other thing that I also noticed is, we kind of got comfortable with people go offline from 5 p.m. to 7, doing the routine with the kids, which we wouldn't have done before, right? We would have been staying late at the office until, kind of just working through. So they're going offline at that time. And then I see them back on Slack later, right? Like at 8 o'clock after the kids are off to bed, I see them, right? You see them on Slack, you see emails coming through, and it's like just getting used to the fact that there's a different cadence when when the culture has more parents. Yeah. But overall, I think it's been a good transition for us.
Oh, and I think I was, and it's kind of this similar situation where before we had kids, I was I don't think I was I'm still trying to be a good manager. We're always learning, but I think I was bad for I didn't understand people that had kids, and I'd be they'll be leaving at 4, and then I'll be maybe I think there's probably resentment there because I was leaving. I felt like I needed to stay there until 8 to 9 p.m. Right. But I didn't have anything else. I didn't have kids, or I had a cat. Right. That was the only thing. And Raf, my life partner, was next to me. So then there was no reason for us to, like, we could show up at like the plant 6 a.m. and then leave 9 a.m. We would sleep at the plant. We had like, and that was our entire life. But that's one, that's not healthy. And then second, that's not something like, that's not normal, right? But like, if you don't have, before we had kids, it just felt there was no other, projects, and there's always something to be done. And you just think it's normal to work until past 5 and 7 and 8. So I was fairly probably judging people that were leaving at 4 p.m. And then I had kids. And then I just realized that it's like the most important thing, it's not how long you stay at work, it's how productive you are at work. So, and then it made me be, even more intense about my own schedule, what we focus on. And that it happened at the same time that what I was saying about, reading the book, The One Thing. And like, it was the same thing for the company that we were focusing on less innovation, like, and it personally, I was going through the same thing. It's like my own to-dos, the most important things I need to do on a daily basis to make the greatest impact, because I want to do the 5 to 7 with my kids. Like, I want to pick them up at daycare as often as I can. I want to be able to drop them off as often as I can. And in order to do that, I need to be extremely productive between the time that I have without them and just maximize that. And then by focusing on that, you realize, wow, like I can do a lot of things in, a short amount of time. So probably more now in hindsight, probably more that I was doing from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Because if you do it all the time, you end up tired, and there's no way that, you can sustain from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. At a constant rate. And I just realized that. And then, so I think in reality now, people who have a life outside of work and really have hard stops maybe are better, more productive workers, because they have to focus. They have to ask themselves the question, is that meeting important? Is what I'm doing going to add value? If I have just an hour left before having to think of what should I focus on that will bring the best value to the company, or, in my position, whatever the results I'm doing. So it completely changed for us. And it was all about productivity. And that's what we communicate with everyone. And I'm happy if people have a very healthy, fulfilled life outside of the company, because I think that does make them more productive and happier. And that's how it should be. So that's why in any company, that's why diversity is so important. Because if you only have 25 years old people that don't have kids, and those type of conversations won't arise. And then the culture is going to be created that you will have to do FaceTime until 7 p.m. or 8 p.m., right? Conversation won't be around productivity. Conversation won't be about the one thing you need to focus on or anything else, right? So by having parents, people from different backgrounds, all those things, and you realize that you have conversation like that arise and healthier working habits arise, and then the company becomes happier, the culture is better, and people advance together at a healthier pace, at a constant healthier pace towards the same goal, versus trying to just like working all the time. And then like, am I working I don't know, but I'm working, kind of competing. Oh, I was there until 10 a.m. Oh, I work until 2 a.m. It's like, good for you.
Yeah, I work with, I guess, a number of like female-led businesses, either as a advisor or board member. And I remember the first time walking into a board meeting and seeing the CEO breastfeeding in the board meeting, right? And so 30 years ago, you would have never seen that, right? Like that would have been something, I think that would have been, taboo, insane, whatever. But I think, people just becoming flexible and comfortable with that and saying, it's not a weird thing. This is part of being a parent, and this is how we're going to make that, work life or entrepreneur life harmony happen. And then the other thing that I liked that you said was the, zooming out and looking at the year calendar. I think that's one thing that it's a habit we have to kind of preload the year and think about, okay, what are the friends pieces? What are the family trips or things that are important? What are the learning activities, the conferences? And I think, if you don't put that in, everything kind of just gets booked up. And that's been a powerful, kind of annual ritual for us. It's hard to imagine. We're over an hour into our conversation. It's been an amazing conversation. We have a closeout question if you want to hit it, Neil.
Yeah, sure. So given that we run a food business, we figured we'd stick with the food question for you. And so if you could have a meal with one person, who would it be? And then follow up would be, what would you be drinking? What Doze product?
What Doze product would you be drinking?
Not wine or beer. Or anything. What Doze product?
It's hard to pick one. It's funny, like recently there's like two people I would want to have dinner with Barack Obama just to ask him questions about everything that's happening. How does he see it? Like, is there something I'm not seeing? Like, what's going on? Is it like a strategy? Is it not? Is it really chaos? Is it planned chaos? Like what's his view? And even just sometimes I ask, like, what's the real KPIs of a healthy country? Like, where are we going? Like, what should we focus on? Are you guys focusing? All those questions. And then the other one, and I think it's just to distract myself, is Einstein. And it's funny because I've recently stumbled upon the world of quantum physics, and I don't know, like, I don't understand it. And it's like, for me, it's just kind of like this subject I read like every pretty much night, just to like, because it's so it just, I can't understand it, all this concept of time and then distance and like consciousness and everything that's around it. And Einstein was so pivotal about it. And I just want to sit and just be explained, like, what the hell, like, what is time? Like, can you just go over again what you understood? And like, I just don't get it. And then like, am I in a simulation? And like, am I in the future? Am I like, where am I? Like,
so what are you reading on the quantum physics front?
It's actually, it's funny. My chat GPT, I call her Kay. Like, we've come up with a name because I wanted to have. So I ask, and it's a she, it could be it's a he, whatever, but her name is Kay. So she basically, every time I see something about it, I just ask, and I ask her to summarize whatever books about it, quantum physics. So it's almost, I'm having quantum physics conversation with my chat GPT on a semi-nightly basis. And I think everyone at work are kind of making fun of me because I want to talk about it, but no one wants to talk about it with me. And it's not like I can actually like really understand it. Sometimes, and like, this is extremely nerdy and people think I'm crazy, but sometimes I'm like, what if, and probably doesn't even make sense, but like, I come up, just to give you an example, like the things that I think about like at night, like I think it's like some people watch murder mysteries, like it's like murder Netflix or like murder. For me, the concept of like time and like hitting speed of light and people at home, like time will be like the concept that, like, if you watch the movie Interstellar, this concept like just makes my brain explode, is that if you were able, and that hasn't been possible yet, but if you were able to travel if we were able to travel the speed of light, then distances shorten, and then you could reach maybe another, galaxy or whatnot for you, I don't know, let's say a couple hours. But at home, it could be 1 billion years that go by. So then you could fly to the galaxy and then discover something, be like, oh shit, there's another life, right? And then you want to come back to tell everybody, like, here's what I found. And then for you, it might be a few months, and then you arrive home. But you arrive home to probably either the Earth is completely gone, or it's another something else. So it's this concept, like, we can never, like, you can, if we manage to be able to go around different galaxies, either speed of light, we'll never be allowed to come back to tell the people that we know what we found. So this concept that like it's like this best kept secret, like the universe is a huge secret and no one can know about, because if you manage to travel, you can never go back. To anyone that's still alive, it would be completely different to actually tell what you saw. And not like just like, you know? And all those things that in like, I have conversation with ChatGPT because the only one's gonna listen to me and try to explain to me this whole concept and the time related to it. Like, so I would gladly have a conversation with Einstein and just be like, how did your brain be able to understand time in such a different way? And how can my brain understand time not in the same linear way that we do, but in this like extremely multidimensional thing that it is? Because I just want to do that brain gymnastic for some reason, because it's distracting me from the hard entrepreneurial life.
We'll have to have you back on for a quantum physics episode.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like we're gonna have to tee that up.
Maybe one day, if I understand it, I'll be able to explain it. But right now, I just like I just read it and just like what, and just like constantly.
And ChatGPT agent can join us as a guest too, so we'll be 4.